UFC 297 saw two and new UFC champions. Now, one was guaranteed in the women's bantamweight fight, in which we saw Raquel Pennington come out on top, and the other was Dricus Du Plessis, the number 2 ranked middleweight in the world, dethroning the middleweight champion Sean Strickland. We're going to get into both of those title fights, how they played out, and what could be next for the new champions. And we'll start in the 185-pound division. Dricus Du Plessis has continued his perfect run in the UFC and is now 7-0 within the promotion and is a champion of the world at middleweight. He got the victory over the course of a 25-minute back-and-forth stand-up fight with Sean Strickland, where he did get the decision victory. It was a split decision, so it was close. A lot of people in the aftermath, my buddy Jordan pointed it out a lot last night, and then I've seen it more so today on Sunday, a 12 hours removed from when the event ended. And there is a lot of people that think, including the boss man Dana White, Sean Strickland won this fight. To me, it felt like one of those that could have went either way. From what I recall, without having going back and watched it a second time, watching it live, the third round was the one that I remember looking at my buddies and thinking, that was kind of a toss-up. That could be the round to decide the fight. And here we are. Dricus gets the split decision. It was 48-47 on all three cards, two of which went to the new champion and one that went to Sean Strickland. Dricus was able to keep the pressure and pacing on Sean Strickland, something that Sean is usually the person to do against his opponents. And that wasn't the case on Saturday night. Sean had to be on the defensive. He had a great jab, the first two rounds especially. It remained true for most of the fight, but it was most prominent in those early exchanges. But Dricus was able to start landing more frequently as the fight went on. He had the more powerful, like big shots, and Sean had the more, like I said, that jab, and it cut up Dricus pretty bad. He had a pretty banged up eye. Dricus did cut Sean pretty badly in, I think, the fourth or fifth round. So at the end of the night, they were both very much banged up. It was a good fight. It wasn't this all-timer that people will go back and watch for years and years to come, but it was a solid scrap between two guys that clearly wanted to be the champion. And I'll say this, I joked about it, on the preview show, where I'm like, somehow, some way, Dricus has garnered a 6-0 record in the UFC, now 7-0 after Saturday night. And in all of his fights, pretty much, they have been ugly. They haven't came easy, really, in a majority of these fights. But now you really start looking at this resume that he's racking up in what has only been 7 UFC fights. Brad Tavares, Darren Till, Derek Brunson, Robert Whitaker, now Sean Strickland. That's a very powerful resume in such a short amount of time. His first fight in the UFC was October of 2020, so just over that 3-year mark. He has become a champion and racked up a very good resume, and it brings up the question of who is next. So in his post-fight interview with Daniel Cormier, Dricus called for a fight with Israel Adesanya, which would obviously be a massive fight. The Battle of Africa, the former two-time middleweight champion who, made a incredible run in the middleweight division. I believe 12 straight wins. It was the second most all-time, just outside of Anderson Silva. Dricus undefeated in the UFC. The storylines, the rivalry is all there. Israel has said he wants to take a long layoff, and how long is long for him? Probably not as long as what it is to other people, because Israel is such an active champion that even 5 or 6 months is a pretty long layoff for him. The other option is someone who called him out on Twitter, and that was Khamzat Chimaev, who made a move up to 185 in what seems to be, for the foreseeable future, when he got a victory over Kamaru Usman around the back half of the year of 2023. I had seen prior to, during this fight week out there that Khamzat was kind of said to be next up. I've not heard Dana or anything super official say that just yet, and if it's out there, please let me know because I just haven't seen or heard it. But it could definitely squeak through the cracks. I would want to see Hamzat Chimaev versus Dricus first. I don't mind Adesanya getting a break, and you add in the fact that over that second title run, he won the belt back and then lost it in his first defense. So I know he was like this long reigning champion that did deserve a rematch, and that is what he got when he got his second fight with Alex Pereira. But this time around, I feel like, again, is he such a massive star? I'm not going to be upset if he gets this title fight. It would be a huge fight, him and Dricus. But I'd like to see Adesanya get one fight at least with someone else before getting back into the title picture already. And I think Hamzat is kind of that next big star on the rise. And he really needs activity because when he's been most active is when his stardom has blossomed the most. He brings eyes to everything that he is a part of, even if it's good or bad drama. He's gonna bring attention, and him versus Dricus has all the makings of a very special buildup and a potential really, really good fight. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below of who you think should be the first title defense for Dricus Du Plessis. Should it be Israel Adesanya? Should it be Hamzat Chimaev? Or is there someone else out there that has their name in the hat, kind of like Jared Cannonier does on the outside looking in? Be sure to let me know. And in the co-main event, the vacant women's bantamweight title got its home finally, and that is around the waist of Raquel Pennington, who has amassed this 6-fight win streak now, got to the top of the mountain in what was her second opportunity to get a title, and she captured it. It started out a little rocky for her in the beginning. No pun intended. Mayra looked good early on, rounds 1, round 2, but there was a point where the tide began to turn, and that's what I felt was going to happen. The longer this fight went, the better chance Raquel Pennington had at winning this fight. I even went as far as betting the fight not to go the distance because I felt Mayra would maybe end the fight early, and if not, she would get tired and Rocky would finish her late. There were a couple opportunities where that bet didn't look as bad as it ended up being. There were a couple submission threats. There were big strikes landed at certain points from both ladies, but all in all, Raquel did what she had to did, and it was veteran expertise that got her this victory. She knew that Mayra Bueno Silva got tired. Raquel Pennington was not going to get tired. She's been there. She's done this thing time and time again, and she won those later rounds, and she took the rightful claim to be the women's bantamweight champion. And that means that the post-Amanda Nunes era has officially begun. She retired last May after beating Irene Aldana, relinquished her title alongside the featherweight title, even though that division is no longer a thing for now in the UFC. She was there in the crowd last night. It was kind of cool. She kind of got to not officially pass the torch because she wasn't in there giving the belt around Raquel's waist, but it was cool. They had shared the cage originally when Amanda beat Raquel Pennington in their title fight with one another. So that was cool for her to be there, kind of be a part of that moment where she can officially just relax, be riding off into the sunset as this division continues to move forward. On Friday, I tried to be as positive as I could. I tried to have a good outlook on the future of this division. And this fight, again, much like the main event, not saying it wasn't on the same level as the main event. It wasn't as good as the main event, but it wasn't this all-timer, but it also wasn't this terrible, horrendous fight. It was just kind of right in the middle. It was okay, and that's all right with me. I wish we would have got a finish or a big stamp to really have someone take that vacant title and really make it feel like, okay, I am the champion now. We didn't get that. We move forward here. Raquel Pennington is the new champion. We get it in the first month of 2024. So we have 11 months now to let this division play out, let people climb the rankings. We already have the next title fight pretty much all but booked, which will be Raquel Pennington versus the number 1 ranked and former champion, Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena does everything in her power to pull eyes to her fights and to her division. And for that, I give her credit. Cringe or not, she does what she can, and I respect that. And Raquel Pennington is very much not of that same mold. So those two being matched up together could be interesting. Pena's going to try and get under the skin of Pennington. I don't know if it can, get to her. Raquel Pennington seems very mentally strong and unbothered. She even kind of washed aside some of the things that Mayra Bueno Silva said this week. So if I had to pick today, I think Raquel Pennington might win that fight, and I think if they had betting odds for it, she should be the favorite. Now, do I think that's what would happen? No, I think Juliana Pena would be the favorite. At the very least, it would be a pick 'em. So I'll be curious to kind of watch what'll come out. I'm sure they'll be out sometime this week on one of those sports books. So it'd be interesting to see that. So we'll see how the rest of the division follows suit. We have a new champion who's going to get her first title defense. We just need more activity. We need more of these ranked ladies to get fights. And most importantly of all, we need new, fresh prospects and talent to enter this division and make a splash. So, in the comments below, again, let me know what you think should be the first title defense for Dricus Du Plessis. Is it Israel Adesanya? Is it Hamzat Chimaev? Or is it someone else? And for the second part of the video, what do you think for the women's bantamweight division? What will it take to bring this division back and at least somewhat rival the great women's strawweight and women's flyweight divisions that are filled with great experienced veterans and a lot of young, promising prospects? That is what has put those two divisions at such a higher pedestal right now than the women's bantamweight division. What will it take, and can we get there by the end of 2024? If you enjoyed this recap, drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss recaps like this, fight breakdowns, MMA news, fight announcements, and everything in between. Be sure to follow alongside, join the community at the BAJ MMA on all social media platforms. And also be sure to follow on your favorite audio platform as well. If you don't want to just watch clips on YouTube and you want to listen to one long form podcast of my entire thoughts on this card and all the big hitters, or, little things like that, be sure to follow on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and anywhere that you want to listen to audio platforms. Have a great week. It's an off week this upcoming week, and then we get into a very big stretch of fights starting February 3rd all the way through, I think, after UFC 300. I'm pretty sure we have fights every single weekend, including the PFL versus Bellator champion versus champion card. So we get one little rest period, and then it's full steam ahead. Catch you guys there for all of the fight breakdowns and hopefully some more big news in the meantime.